It was an ordinary Tuesday morning, and I was on my way to school, rushing through the familiar streets of my neighborhood. In my haste, I took a shortcut through an alleyway I had never noticed before. As I walked through the narrow passage, a strange sensation washed over me, and before I knew it, I had crossed into another realm. Suddenly, the world around me shifted. The air grew heavy, and the familiar sounds of the city were replaced by an eerie silence. I stood in a dimly lit corridor, its walls covered in faded yellow wallpaper. The place felt wrong, as if I had stumbled into a forgotten part of reality. I had somehow no-clipped into the back rooms. Confusion and fear gripped me, but there was no turning back. As I cautiously moved forward, the corridor seemed to stretch endlessly, its twists and turns disorienting me further. Each step echoed through the empty space, heightening my sense of isolation. Soon I began to notice subtle changes in the back rooms. The fluorescent lights flickered sporadically, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. The air grew colder, and a musty smell pervaded the corridors, like the scent of decay. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the stillness, sending shivers down my spine. I froze in place, my heart pounding in my chest. I had unknowingly attracted the attention of a lurking creature in this liminal world. I pressed my back against the wallpapered wall, trying to make myself as inconspicuous as possible. Peering cautiously around the corner, I caught a glimpse of the monster, a grotesque creature with long, jagged claws and piercing red eyes. Its form seemed to shift and contort as if it were a creature born of nightmares. Terror consumed me as I realized I needed to avoid the creature at all costs. I had no weapons, no way to defend myself. I could only rely on my wits and stealth to survive. With bated breath, I carefully moved from one hiding spot to another, always keeping an eye on the monster's movements. Its guttural snarls reverberated through the corridors, signaling its relentless pursuit. I navigated through the maze-like back rooms, desperately trying to find an exit, praying for this nightmarish experience to end. Hours turned into eternity as I evaded the monster, my energy waning with each passing moment. The back rooms seemed to feed on my fear and exhaustion, amplifying the sense of despair that clung to me like a suffocating fog. Just as I felt my spirit breaking, a faint glimmer of light appeared in the distance. It was the first sign of hope I had encountered in this otherworldly labyrinth. Summoning the last reserves of my strength, I quickened my pace, drawn to the light like a moth to a flame. The monster roared and started to chase down towards me, and I started running towards the light. As I sprinted towards the glimmering light, my heart pounded in my chest, and adrenaline surged through my veins. The monster's thunderous footsteps echoed behind me, driving me to push my limits even further. I could feel its hot breath on the back of my neck, a chilling reminder that my life hung by a thread. The light grew brighter with each passing step, filling me with a renewed sense of hope. I knew that if I could just reach it, there might be a chance to escape this dreadful place. I pushed myself harder, leaping over debris and dodging obstacles that seemed to materialize out of thin air. With a final burst of energy, I burst through the source of the light, stumbling into a large chamber bathed in a warm golden glow. The air felt fresher, devoid of the oppressive atmosphere that haunted the back rooms. I had escaped the clutches of the monster, at least for the moment. Catching my breath, I surveyed my surroundings. The chamber was vast and filled with intricate, ornate pillars. Soft, ethereal music played in the distance, and a sense of tranquility washed over me. It was as if I had stumbled upon a sanctuary amidst the chaos. Relieved yet cautious, I cautiously moved forward, the echoes of the monster's roars fading into the distance. I couldn't help but wonder how I had ended up in this strange place, and if there were others who had unwittingly no-clipped into the back rooms. As I explored further, I stumbled upon a group of individuals who, like me, had found themselves trapped in this liminal world. They too had stories of their harrowing encounters with the back rooms and the horrors that lurked within. Together, we formed a bond, united by our shared experiences and the will to survive. Over time, we discovered that the backrooms were a maze of interconnected dimensions, each with its own peculiarities and dangers. We mapped out the safest routes, shared survival strategies, and supported one another through the trials we faced. In this strange world, we found strength in unity. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. We continued to navigate the backrooms, always on the move, searching for a way back to our own reality. The monster that had chased me relentlessly became just one among the many horrors we encountered. But armed with the knowledge we had gained and the bonds we had formed, we became adept at avoiding them and finding temporary refugees. It was during one such respite that we stumbled upon an ancient, worn-out doorway. Something about it felt different, almost tangible. We gathered our collective courage and ventured through, hoping against hope that it would lead us back home. To our astonishment, we found ourselves standing in the alleyway where it had all begun. The world had reverted to its familiar state, and the sounds of the city enveloped us once again. Tears of joy and relief welled up in our eyes as we realized we had made it back. Though forever changed by our experiences, we parted ways, each returning to our own lives, carrying with us the memories of the backrooms and the strength we had found within ourselves. The world moved on, oblivious to the liminal realm that existed just beyond its grasp. As for me, I resumed my journey to school, forever haunted by the knowledge of the backrooms, but also filled with a newfound resilience. As I hurriedly walked toward school, my eyes caught sight of something that made my heart skip a beat. There, on a lamppost, were missing posters with my face plastered on them. The world around me seemed to spin as panic surged through my veins. Questions raced through my mind. How did I end up on these posters? Was I missing? And why did nobody mention it? Unable to ignore the alarming discovery, I abandoned my original destination and hastily made my way back home. Every step felt
heavier than before, anxiety gripping me like a vice. The familiar streets that had once brought me comfort now seemed eerily empty and devoid of life. Arriving at my house, I hoped to find solace within its familiar walls, but as I turned the key in the lock, a sinking feeling washed over me. The door swung open with an eerie creak, revealing an empty and deserted interior. Furniture was missing, personal belongings were gone, and an unsettling silence engulfed the once familiar space. Confusion mingled with fear as I walked through each room, searching for any sign of life. It was as if my home had been frozen in time, untouched and abandoned. Questions continued to flood my mind. What had happened? Where was my family? How had I become entangled in this bizarre situation? Desperate for answers, I frantically searched for any clues, hoping to unravel the mystery that had consumed my life. Every room I entered, every drawer I opened, only deepened the sense of isolation and unease. There were no notes, no letters, no traces of anyone ever residing in the place that was once filled with laughter and warmth. As reality sank in, a chilling thought crept into my mind. What if my existence had been erased? What if the world had forgotten me, leaving me to wander through the remnants of a life I no longer belonged to? Driven by a mix of fear and determination, I ventured out into the empty streets once more, hoping to find someone, anyone, who could shed light on the enigma that had engulfed my life. But the world outside mirrored the desolation of my home. No signs of life, no bustling crowds, only an unsettling stillness that seemed to amplify my solitude. Days turned into weeks as I wandered aimlessly, my steps guided by an insatiable longing for answers. With each passing day, the weight of loneliness bore down on me, threatening to extinguish the flickering flame of hope within my heart. After a while trying to figure it out, I decided to exit town. After going to the borders of my town, I hit a barrier that was an illusion of the sky. Frustrated that I found my freedom was fake, I decided to kick the barrier which clipped me into a different world. As my foot collided with the illusory barrier, a jolt of energy surged through my body. Instead of pain, I felt a peculiar sensation, as if I were being pulled through the fabric of reality itself. The world around me dissolved into a swirl of colors and shapes, and when the chaos settled, I found myself standing in a completely different realm. The air was heavy with an otherworldly stillness, and an eerie luminescence emanated from the surroundings. I had unknowingly no-clipped into another dimension, a place beyond the boundaries of my understanding. The landscape stretched out before me, a vast expanse of twisted trees, winding paths, and mysterious structures. As I cautiously ventured forward, a sense of unease gripped me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The air seemed to hum with an unseen presence, and a deep sense of foreboding settled in the pit of my stomach. Suddenly, a rustling sound echoed through the eerie silence, and my heart skipped a beat. I quickly sought cover behind a gnarled tree, my breath held in anticipation. I caught a glimpse of movement. A monstrous creature emerged from the shadows. Its form was indescribable, a grotesque combination of limbs and jagged teeth. Its eyes glowed with a sinister intensity, as if it could see right through me. Fear gripped my entire being, and I knew I had to hide. I held my breath as the creature prowled closer, its monstrous presence sending chills down my spine. It seemed to possess an otherworldly sense, as if it could detect the slightest trace of my presence. I pressed myself against the tree, praying that I would remain unseen. Time seemed to stretch on as I strained to maintain my hiding place. Every creaking branch, every gust of wind threatened to betray my presence. Beads of sweat formed on my forehead as the creature passed mere feet away from my hiding spot, its heavy breath reverberating in the air. I dared not move, barely even allowing myself to blink, as the monster lingered in the vicinity. Its piercing gaze swept over the surroundings, its predatory instincts homed in on any sign of life. I was a mere breath away from being discovered, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. Minutes felt like hours as the creature finally moved on, its monstrous form disappearing into the shadows. I released a shaky breath, relief washing over me, but I knew I couldn't let my guard down. In this strange and treacherous realm, danger lurked around every corner. With renewed determination, I continued my journey through the liminal world, constantly vigilant and careful to avoid detection. The path ahead was treacherous, with unseen perils lurking in every shadow, but I refused to surrender to the fear that threatened to consume me. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months as I traversed the treacherous terrain of the dimension I had stumbled into. I encountered otherworldly creatures, each more fearsome than the last, and faced numerous trials that tested my resilience. Yet amidst the darkness and uncertainty, I discovered a strength within myself that I never knew existed. I became adept at navigating the treacherous landscapes, honing my instincts and learning to adapt to the rules of this strange realm. As time passed, I began to notice subtle changes in the backrooms. The once twisted and menacing landscape started to shift, revealing glimpses of ethereal beauty. Vibrant flowers bloomed where darkness had once reigned, and gentle streams wound their way through the previously desolate paths. One fateful day, as I stood atop a hill, overlooking the transformed realm, I felt a tingling sensation knowing this may be my life forever.